That's good.
So unless you wanted to start somewhere else, the first thing I was thinking to talk about is the different types of tours that you guys do, because some of
Mm-hmm.
them are team, but aren't there some that individuals can join as well?
There are, yeah. We have a few different types of tours. We have collegiate indoor tours, so universities that come on tour, Division 1, 2, 3, NAIA, all levels. We also have club team tours, so we're seeing more and more club teams each year start to take tours, teams like Northern Lights. Um, Out of Minnesota, we have Absolute Volleyball Academy, BC United out of Chicago. So we have club teams. And then we also have tours, or sometimes a coach will work with us to recruit individuals to put together sort of like a mixed club team or a mixed college team to come on a tour. So like CJ Sherman out of Jacksonville, Florida, she's fantastic about recruiting, putting together teams, and she'll usually bring a team a couple times a year, and we'll have tours available that individuals can join. We also have, every year we have a global challenge tournament in Pula, Croatia, which takes place in July. And that is a international tournament where we bring teams from the United States, we have a U22 division and then a U17 division. So both club and college teams come, and individuals can also join those teams. And they play against teams federation teams from all over Europe. We've had teams from China, Puerto Rico, Italy, Spain, Portugal, Austria, all over. So that's been a really wonderful tournament too. So
Okay.
we've got different kinds. Yeah.
Yep. And in terms of destinations, what are the ones you cover?
Yeah, my region is Central America. That's where I'm based in that. So I do mostly Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and also the Caribbean, Puerto Rico. But we do tours all over the world. So I've led tours down from Brazil to all over Europe, Iceland. We also have tours in Asia. Tim Kelly and Corey Solomon just took A5 Volleyball Club to Botswana and Zimbabwe last Thanksgiving. For us, there's basically, the mission of our companies. We want to play volleyball in every country in the world, and so we're up to going wherever anyone wants to go. We have regions that we are sort of, based and familiar with and do a lot of tours in because we have a lot of contacts there. But if a team comes to us and is like, hey, I have a friend or a player in this country, or I just want to go to India, I mean, we would set it up and do it. And that's actually really exciting for us, is when we get coaches that want to go to places where we've never run a tour before. So we go all over. Yeah.
Yeah. And as I understand it, the tours can have different flavors in terms of kind of on the scale of how much volleyball versus how little volleyball, because maybe you're doing more social engagement or community service type.
Yep, that's absolutely right. The tours in Central America and the Caribbean tend to be more service oriented. The level's a little bit lower there than in Europe or Asia. So the teams that tend to choose those tours are volleyball is important, but also community engagement and cultural experiences are also a priority as well. So the tours that are going to Central America are very service oriented, but in Europe it tends to be a lot less service oriented, more like really high level volleyball, also historic sightseeing, all the attractions that Europe offers, like that, and same with Asia too. The volleyball's so good, so those are much more like highly focused on just really, really good competition.
Yeah, from what I've seen of some of the itineraries of the teams, and the ones in Europe, you're kind of bouncing from city to city, have a match maybe every couple of nights or something like that.
Yeah,
about right?
That's right. We play as much volleyball as the team wants to play. So the coach tells us, hey, we want 3 games and a lot of sightseeing, cultural stuff, or coach can say, hey, I want 5 matches and I wanted, gym to practice in on off days, we can do that too. So it's totally customizable. Yeah, and we have beach tours also. We've had a handful of beach volleyball teams as well. So that's another thing I forgot to mention earlier. But so every tour is totally customizable, and it just depends on what the coach wants for their team.
Sure.
Yeah.
When do they traditionally happen, and how long do they usually go?
Traditionally, it's spring break and summer break. It's when the schools when student athletes have breaks and they're able to travel. So most of our tours happen between March and August. But we also have teams that every once in a while they'll have like a J term and go in January, or they'll get their Thanksgiving breaks will align, and some teams will travel over Thanksgiving break. But mostly it's spring and summer. Mm-hmm. But for us, it doesn't matter. I mean, we will host a tour any time of year. We've done like a New Year's bash every year for the past several years, where we have teams that come over New Year's. So we've done tournaments over Easter. So we'll travel whenever there's a team that wants to play, but that's when they usually take place, is spring and summer.
And just so people who are on that might not be familiar with the rules, in the NCAA, things have changed a little bit from what I recall. But I think right now in Division I, it's every 4 years you're allowed to do a foreign tour.
That's correct.
But you could go more frequently to Puerto Rico.
That's correct. Like that. That's correct. Yeah.
And I think correct. Below that, I think Division II is also 4 years, but Division III is 3 years.
It's every 3. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's an interesting difference.
But of course, you'd want to check with your eligibility coordinator because the rules are changing faster than we can keep up with. But yeah, generally.
Well, and the other side of it too is, it has to, like you kind of mentioned, it has to be outside of class time, so they can't miss school for it per se.
That's correct. Yeah.
In Division I, it can't be within 30 days of the start of preseason, if I remember correctly.
That's correct.
But I don't believe they have that rule below Division I.
I think you're right.
And I have no idea what NAIA has in terms of restrictions.
Yeah. I'm not sure either, but you're right about Division I. We often have Division III teams coming all the way into August, but usually our Division I teams are done by July.
Right. So people know, I actually did a tour myself that I scheduled and planned and all that with Midwestern State a couple years ago to Argentina. And we did it as a kind of lead into preseason, because in Division II you're allowed to do that.
Right.
That was when I say we, I mostly mean me, because I was left to do all the work.
Yeah.
But when we were talking about what we wanted, and this was a situation where it was a very custom structure, because it was our preseason. We didn't want to tour. We wanted to go someplace, stay there, and not bounce around very much, because that was just going to be the travel's exhausting at times.
Absolutely.
Let's face it.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to deal with athletes in recovery, and you're going to be rolling into, I think we were getting back right before school, I think we were back like the Thursday before everybody else checked into the dorms, sort of thing. So they were going to be rolling right into classes a couple days later. So we didn't want them all wiped out. I mean, okay, you're going to get red-eye flights and things like that when you're going that far away.
Yeah.
But at least we were in roughly the same time zone. So it's not like going to Europe where you got 5 or 6 time zones you got to handle and all that jet lag.
Yeah.
And I had the contacts to be able to do this. So that was a situation where I could, whereas somebody, would definitely be better off going to you or somebody like you, where, okay, this is what we want to do, but I don't know anybody in Costa Rica or China or India or wherever. I've never done this before.
Right.
Help me.
We just try to take all the we take all the planning away from, all the planning and logistics off the table for the coaches. So we want the coaches to be able to just focus on coaching their players, enjoying the country that they're traveling in, and focusing on team bonding, which is what these tours are so good at, especially preseason tours. We have a lot of teams who now there's a new rule, you can bring your incoming freshmen in Division I. So that's really changed the dynamic too. A lot of teams are wanting to do a preseason trip with their incoming freshmen, and then they start the season, leagues ahead of
integrated.
Other teams.
Exactly.
It's just fantastic. And, so the team bonding that happens on these tours, you learn a lot about each other when you travel domestically. When you travel internationally, you learn even more. So, and it's sometimes you're put in situations where things come up that you wouldn't necessarily get exposed to if you're just in your comfort zone. So that's one of the things we think is, traveling outside of one's comfort zone. And everyone has different comfort zones, and that's what gets exposed on these trips as well. So,
yeah, that was the thing for us was the integration was a big part of it because we had 5 seniors that year, and we had 5 incoming freshmen.
Oh,
okay, this is a great chance.
Yeah,
this is the
absolutely.
time to do it.
That's a great time to do it. Yeah,
to work that integration and force them to be in small confines together, and taking public transportation around Buenos Aires and all these crazy things. I mean, most of them have never been outside the country.
Yeah.
A lot of them have barely been outside of Texas for that.
Right. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do is when we check in with the players and see what, who's never been out of the country before. We've had maybe they never swam in the Pacific Ocean before, or, never gone surfing before, or zip lining, or a lot of firsts happen on these tours, and it's exciting.
Yeah, and it's interesting from a coaching perspective to watch it all happen.
Oh yeah,
because
absolutely.
I've personally traveled quite a bit, so I won't say it's old hat, but at least I'm used to having to make that adjustment to being in a new place with a different language, whatever.
Yeah,
these kids, we encourage them to learn Spanish to at least help a little bit.
Right. It does. Even a little bit helps. Even a little bit helps for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's still for them, it's okay, you got to realize that this is a very different sort of thing, and there are things you should do and there are things you shouldn't do, and it's definitely a process.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my favorite aspects of the tours is, I don't know if you guys had the opportunity to do this on yours, but is actually spending time with the teams that you're playing against, like after the match. And we try to organize and facilitate that type of connection. And so we'll do like team meals with the team that you play against after the match, so that we can ask the players to sit, spread out, so that the international players can mix in with them and actually, ask questions about what it's like to play volleyball in your country. And, now inevitably now everyone's on, Instagram and Snapchat instantly following each other, which is pretty cool. But just making those international friendships and learning that even though you're in a foreign country and things may look and feel very differently at the outset, once you connect with the player and you learn about their life, volleyball really breaks down those cultural barriers, and you actually have so much in common. And that's a really beautiful aspect of the game of, playing international volleyball. And also one of the things that our tours, I think it's one of the highlights of our tours for sure.
And they'll never forget it.
Yeah.
They won't ever.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, and for those teams, it becomes a touch point, like through that following season, or even years later for players that did it earlier in their careers. Hey, you remember that time? Yeah,
absolutely.
The stories.
Yep.
Real quick, do you guys do anything for teams or clubs or anything like that from outside the U.S. to take on tour to different parts of the world?
We do, yeah. We've had several teams from China actually come to the United States, and we were supposed to have a team from Japan, but that recently got canceled. But we've also had federation teams from Slovenia and Italy in the United States as well. So we've helped a little bit recruiting the international teams for the AAUs in the past, and we've helped sort of facilitate that relationship. But we also are getting more and more teams from China specifically who want to come to the United States, and we will take them around all different states around the U.S. and they usually when they come, they just want to play as much volleyball as possible and train as much as possible. and shop as well. But
or at least that's what the coaches want them to do.
Well, yeah, the coaches want to do that. Yeah. So we do that as well, where we're setting up matches against university teams, club teams, and that's fantastic as well. That's not like that's not what our business is. That's not the majority of our business, but that's a fun thing to do because it's always in this season. It's always during volleyball season when we can't do foreign tours with U.S. teams. So it's fun to have foreign teams come to the U.S. And I actually had a Chinese team here in New York, and we've had a team in Texas, had a team in California. So it's really fun to have. Have
you ever done, say, take an Italian team to Costa Rica, something like that? I have not. I mean, the Global Challenge is probably the closest we get to that, where we have foreign teams coming to, like we had the Puerto Rican team in Croatia, and that's really fun. But I would certainly love to have foreign team get more foreign teams down to Costa Rica, or Puerto Rico. So that kind of thing would be terrific. But sure.
I mean, we're certainly able to do it. It's just a matter of finding a coach who wants to take their team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's start talking about the planning process of all this.
Okay.
When do you typically want to start talking with a team, for a future tour? How far out in advance? Sure.
I think generally, a year in advance is good. I mean, I like to know 2 years in advance, but not everyone is that can be too much for some people. But a year in advance, we can really start specifics, start talking specifics, because flights only become available like 330 days before you can actually fly. So when we're talking with the coaches, the very first question is, the very first two questions are, where do you want to go and when do you want to travel? And that's what we need to know first, and then we can start the planning. Then the first step is to reserve those group plane tickets, because the flights, our prices don't change. They're locked in. The group flights in general can just fluctuate so much. So we want the teams to get those flights locked in as quickly as possible, so that they don't have the risk exposure of flight price increases. And once we have that, then it's a very seamless process. We have send a contract out, ask for a deposit, and just sort of work our way through that process. But we don't all that being said, we certainly don't need a year in advance notice. If a team came to us right now and said we want to travel in 2 weeks, we could pull it off. And we actually have done that before, because we've had teams who had planned on planning their own trip, and their contact fell through for whatever reason, and then they came to us at the last minute, said, we have the funding, where can we go? And we're like, right, we can go here, and we can set it up really quickly. And that's just because of our contacts, and this is because of what we do. But we would like a year would be ideal. 6 months is probably the norm, and anything less than that is we could do it, but you're going to probably be scrambling a little bit on your end, not necessarily us.
Well, I mean, I can speak from experience, because we kind of like tentatively made the decision about a year out.
Yeah.
But didn't really say, okay, we're going to do this until like January.
Yeah.
For a trip in August.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a lot of stress.
So
trying to get everything organized.
It is. Yeah. Because there's the logistics of signing the contract, and raising the funds is the biggest thing, and getting the payment and the flights. But all of the logistics on the ground, we take care of it all. But the longer you wait, the closer you get to the date. It doesn't really change the tour as much as it does the sometimes hotel availability. Like we kind of have our favorite hotels that we like teams to stay in, because they're close to the city center, walking distance, or close to a gym or something, right. Or maybe they have whatever features that we like for teams. The longer you wait, then sometimes those maybe our first choice hotel isn't available, but that's really the only difference.
Yeah. Just as a quick aside for the attendees, if you guys want to throw in a question anytime, go ahead. I'll ask it when it sort of fits in the conversation. You can just use the Q&A little application, and we'll go from there. Yeah, you spoke about the financing side of things. I would imagine that for the programs that probably go every 4 years or whatever their schedule allows, they're already factoring in the fundraising into kind of an annual sort of, okay, this year we're gonna raise a quarter of the next trip and so on and so forth, rather than trying to just do it all in one like we did.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different teams do it fundraise a lot of different ways. Obviously the teams that have been with us once and they're like, okay, we know now we want to make this part of our regular every 4 years, so we can put that into our budget 4 years in advance, and we're just going to continue to save for it every year. That's obviously the best way to do it. But some teams, don't know that far enough in advance, or they just joined a new program or something like that. They can't do it that way. So a lot of teams will, raise money through camps is the biggest way. And a lot of teams will put it on their players, be like, if you want to do this trip as a player, you have to raise X amount of the money. And then the program will, budget out the rest of the money. So it's easier to fundraise for a trip that is, more service oriented and, and education wise, tends to be a little bit easier. But it's every team fundraises differently. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for people to be aware, for you guys, when do you guys actually receive the fee for the tour? How far in advance do you typically require that payment? Our general structure is once you book plane tickets, we ask for a deposit, which is like anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000, just so we can start locking in hotels. And then 90 days out is usually when we ask for at least, the majority of the payment. 90 days, but right. We've had teams, Over the map.
Yeah, kind of close. But we asked for 90 days. Yeah.
Yeah, I bring that up because for those who are kind of looking at it, you've talked about airlines. It seems like normally they'll require a deposit, when you first book it, maybe 10% or something like that, if I'm remembering correctly. But then I think about 90 days or 60 days out, they're going to require the rest of it. And
exactly.
To finalize who's on the flights and all that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
And beware of change fees.
Yes. Yes.
There could be some of that too.
Right. So the way that we do it, we have like we separate out the flights and the ground costs. And the reason is a lot of programs have their own travel agent, their own, their school has their own travel agent, or they have an airline, a particular airline they like to fly on to get the miles or whatever. And that's fine. So most schools will organize their own travel, but we certainly will organize group flights for teams if they want that. So it just depends on what we want. But our costs for the ground costs that when we give out our prices, those don't change. So that is a nice solid number. And we're also really flexible on if a player transfers or a player gets injured and individual, changes, we don't charge change fees or anything like that, unlike the airlines. So really the airlines are the ones that you that get you. You need to be, careful about just what sort of change fees that you're going to be looking at, cancellation fees, and they're
listed in the contract, so you're going to know what they are.
Yeah,
but it still makes sense to try to be as specific as you can, as early as you can.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And for the NCAA coaches, players are not allowed to take airline miles when they travel. Just in case anybody didn't know that, that's an extra benefit that they're not allowed to receive.
Great point.
In terms of like in-country sort of additional expenses, obviously there's going to be stuff that you're going to be planning out and organizing and saying, okay, and that's going to be factored into the budget for the trip overall.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you kind of recommend for the athletes and the coaches as well, because they're going to be doing stuff to bring in terms of their own sort of spending money and things like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we really, our model is all inclusive. So we cover 3 meals a day plus snacks. A lot of time we'll be out, like in Costa Rica, we're out buying pineapple and fruit and stuff, and for the players to have extra snacks on game days and things like that. So we don't want players to have to worry about food expenses or any necessary expenses. It's really just shopping. Yeah. So I'd say like $100 is totally enough to get it depends where you're going. $100 is plenty in Costa Rica. If you're going to Milan, you might want more for shopping, but just depends on what how much shopping you want to do. But we really try to set up the tour so that you don't, in theory, no player has to worry about not having money. And then it's equal for everyone. So everyone's getting, fully fed 3 meals a day plus snacks and stuff like that. I always tell players that they should still bring their own, like some snacks from home on these trips. Like, if they like their certain kind of like Cliff Bar or Luna Bar or something like that. Because when you're traveling, you have long travel days, long bus rides, and even though you can get anything, snack-wise and food-wise in the country, it's just, or we can get plenty of it. It might not be the brand that you like, and if you're playing on a game day, you have something that you are familiar with. It's more comfortable for the players. So I still tell players to bring some snacks and for game days and long bus rides, and then maybe $100 for shopping would be plenty.
But don't bring fruit.
Don't bring fruit.
Leaving the U.S. or coming back to the U.S.
That's correct.
Because that could cause some problems at the border.
Yes.
we had one of our players brought something back. I don't even remember what it was, from Argentina to the U.S.
Oh.
And then declared it.
Oh.
Like double and so of course she got pulled aside.
Yeah.
And searched her bags and all that sort of stuff. And we're just like, really?
Yeah. Yeah, then everyone's going to wait. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole team's standing around. Like, where is she? Oh, I saw her go taken off to the side. And you're like, why? What did she do?
What did she do?
Like when we were in Argentina, shopping, of course. You always have to schedule that in.
Of course.
A lot of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
There was definitely a lot of coffee, to the point where our trainer told the girls when we got back, you need to detox for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Because technically the NCAA could come in and test you.
Oh, wow.
And find you over the acceptable limits.
Yeah.
There was a bit of grumbling about that.
Yeah. Well, we do, in Costa Rica, one of my favorite things that we do with the teams is go to an organic chocolate farm. And it's right on the edge of the rainforest. And so we have a rainforest project where the players actually get to plant some native trees to help rehabilitate the rainforest. And then we get a tour through the chocolate farm and actually get to make chocolate that day. And so we eat a lot of chocolate and we take home a lot of chocolate when we go to this chocolate farm. So we tell them
sure,
not to declare it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure, they love that. What other service type stuff do you set up for them?
In Costa Rica, well, I actually run a nonprofit in Nicaragua. I used to live in Nicaragua for about 10 years. And so I run a nonprofit that is mostly based in Nicaragua, but we're also now involved in Costa Rica and Puerto Rico. And so we have a few programs. One, it's really focused on people with disabilities. So we have a cooperative for people with disabilities in Nicaragua. We teach people how to, we do art. We have an art program, we do yoga classes, and then we do education around employment. And then we also do a lot of sport-specific programs. So our goal is like specifically developing girls' sports in Latin America, where there's not a lot of organized sports for girls. We really take it for granted in the States. And maybe we don't this week, but we take for granted in the States, how many organized camps and teams we can join, or a lot of places in Central America that doesn't exist. So we do youth clinics for girls. we've partnered with an organization that distributes sports bras to girls that don't have it. Just anything to remove the barriers of entry to sports for young girls is something that we're really focused on. We do that in both Costa Rica and Puerto Rico and Nicaragua as well. I had a team, I guess it's been 4 years now, Northwest from Washington came down to Nicaragua, and they did the first ever sitting volleyball clinic in Nicaragua. And we got some help from John Kessel at USA Volleyball, and we started a program, Sitting Volleyball, and that we kept that going for a while. And so we've done sitting volleyball clinics, we've done youth clinics, a lot of sport-specific stuff, because the local kids just love that, and they really look up to the teams that come. And it's also something that our teams are especially our college teams, they're used to coaching. They can teach the coaches new techniques and new drills, new games, and the local kids just absolutely love it. So it's really fun. And then we also work with the rehabilitation, the Rainforest Rehabilitation Project in La Fortuna, Costa Rica has been a really exciting project. We're also doing carbon offsetting now. So we have a partnership with a company called Offset Alliance, and we're now trying to offset all of the carbon for our tours. So when a team commits to traveling with us, we basically will match whatever they donate, and then we plant trees, and then also buy carbon credits from a company in Costa Rica, which is fantastic. So I'm sure I'm missing stuff. It kind of depends on where you go, but we do a lot. I mean, to me, it's my favorite part of the tours is integrating all of the resources and the privileges that we have in the United States, and bringing those to places where they're lacking. And we've worked with some really wonderful companies. We've gotten volleyballs donated. USA Volleyball has the Leave the Ball Behind project. So they've sent us a lot of volleyballs. We were able to deliver those volleyballs down to Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria, as well as the coloring books from John Kessel at USA Volleyball. We've also had nets donated, been able to bring those down. So it's really like whenever teams come, and they if they want to, as soon as they sign up for a trip and we figure out where they're going, if they want to get involved in the service component, there's all kinds of stuff we can do, and it just kind of depends on how involved the team wants to get. I know when A5 went to Botswana, they actually got Molten to donate a bunch of sports bras, and I think balls too, and brought loads of equipment. I mean, we will literally have teams come with. We tell everyone, you only get one bag for yourself, and everything else has to be donations. So, so that's fantastic. Yeah, we actually had Colorado Christian this last year. They brought tons and tons of medical equipment. One of the parents of the players had a connection with a medical nonprofit, and they brought medical equipment, and we went and worked with an organization that serves the homeless in Puerto Rico. So that was a fantastic connection. So it really just depends on the team. But mostly I'm focused on people with disabilities, working with developing girls sports, and then the rainforest rehabilitation in Costa Rica.
The cultural differences when it comes to women in sports is definitely something you kind of have to pay a little bit of attention to, or where, depending on where you go, a lot of attention to. And it may not show up in really obvious ways. In some cases, it certainly will, because girls just won't be playing. But in other places, it's a question of treatment. Like, for example, we did all our training at Boca Juniors at their facility when we were in Buenos Aires. And one day we were allowed to use their cafeteria for lunch, because they have a big academy on the soccer side of things. We were told pretty much right before we went in there that, hey, listen, this is a special thing. The female athletes are not normally allowed to eat in here. They can come in and get their food, but they have to leave. And it's a whole, we don't want to distract the boys sort of thing. So they were very conscious of saying, hey, listen,
I'm biting
make
my
sure,
lip right now.
yeah. It's like, make sure that you're respectful and understand that this is a really, really big deal for them, for the organization to let you guys do this.
Yeah.
Even though, from our perspective, it's like, well, why is this an issue?
Yeah. Yeah,
This shouldn't
absolutely.
be an issue.
Yeah,
But literally,
absolutely.
some of the players, because we usually trained like court by court with the Boca players, the women's team would be on the next court over doing their training, and they would come in and get a sandwich or whatever and leave, while our team was sitting at the tables. And you go, wow, this is unusual. But it's one
Yeah.
of it's part of, obviously, the learning experience for the players of seeing just how different cultures can be.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like, okay, as much as you might want to stand up and scream and yell about this right now, you got to realize this is not your country.
Absolutely.
We're visitors here.
Yeah, and I also think that it's those types of experiences for our women athletes are also, it's really good to be exposed to, and to be like, okay, we've come a long way, but we also have a long way to go. And volleyball is a unique sport in the sense that the volleyball programs collegiately are tend to be well funded, well scholarshiped. For Division One at least, and there's a lot of teams. I mean, there's literally thousands of club, maybe tens of thousands of club teams in the United States for female players to get to participate on, and that is just not the case when you leave the United States, and essentially, especially in Latin America. Every single time I go on one of my trips to Latin America, I get asked multiple times, where are the boys teams? Why don't you bring boys, men's volleyball teams down? And I try to explain to them, we do offer men's tours as well. It's just that there's so much fewer men's volleyball teams in the United States than there are women's, and
less well funded.
Case, and much less well funded. Yeah. So that's just not the case everywhere.
Yeah.
So those types of things, is just creating that, the awareness that of the differences that still exist in our country and in foreign countries as well.
Yeah. And the other thing is, that tends to be a big adjustment for our kids is the facilities.
Oh,
because frankly, and you'll, I mean, as a professional player in your past yourself, once you leave the U.S. college system, chances are you're not going to play anywhere that has as much quality of facilities, quality of support, trainers, all that sort of stuff as you had as a college player. Because the money isn't there, the focus isn't there. Okay, maybe if you're a soccer player, it would be a different thing, but certainly in volleyball, you go from playing in an arena, possibly with thousands of people watching, to playing in a gym that might have been worse than your high school gym.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Sort of thing.
We see that all the time, and it's not just Central America; it's also all over Europe. We went to the National Training Center in Brazil the year before the Olympics, and there's a really big difference in the quality of facilities that the United States has for volleyball. Compared to, or for college athletics compared to other countries, and I think that that is one of the biggest adjustments is when players from the U.S. come and play overseas. The floors, the gyms, the lighting in the gyms, the roofs. I mean, in Puerto Rico, we played on court facilities where there's no walls, or there's a place
open
in Nicaragua where we play open air and there's no roof, so it's an adjustment, and our generally, it's I think it's really, really good for the Americans to get out of the U.S. and experience these types, because what they learn is, the locals in that country are so tough and so able to adjust to the conditions, and it's good for American players to get that type of experience.
Well, and
you can play in there, too. Then you're gonna and coaches too,
because you got to be flexible, because you're not going to have the same sort of maybe you can normally train on 2 or 3 courts, but you might only have one. You won't have as many balls. I know in our case when we were down at Boca, you walk into their weight room and you go, okay, can't do the workout that our strength coach wrote up for them to do. So, all right, we have to adapt this on the fly. How can we do something that's roughly similar?
Yeah. We see that a lot with our youth clinics. When I would say we're going to do a clinic. We have no idea how many kids are going to show up because it depends on, do they invite their cousins and their neighbors, and it depends, and it's oftentimes, and I think in the States for volleyball camps and clinics, we're used to like having a 1-to-1 ratio with balls. Almost it's oftentimes, or at least 1 to 2. Yeah, and and you get down to other countries, that's just not the case. I mean, well, I've done clinics where we have literally 1 volleyball and 60 kids and 1 net, and so it's like, okay, we're getting and no walls, no gym walls to like do setting drills, So we're getting real creative, but that's part of it. That's all part of the experience.
Yeah. And we also had a temperature issue because we went down. It was August for us, but it was, effectively December for them, or January or something like that. Now, not that Buenos Aires gets super cold, but it got down around freezing most days or most nights. And we were usually practicing at about 9 o'clock in the morning. And so the gym was chilly. There was one day they were actually doing a delivery or something. And so they had a door open. And so there was a nice breeze coming in. So the girls were freezing. They're like, oh my God. It's like, hey, this is part of the experience.
This is part of it, yeah. We usually have the opposite where we're hot down in Central America, but
no air conditioning, just go play.
Oh yeah, no AC.
Again, anybody got any questions, feel free to fire them in. In terms of kind of helping teams prepare in advance for the experience, I kind of mentioned Spanish language stuff, but are there things that you do with the program to help them, have somebody talk with them about what it's like there, or anything that you encourage them to perhaps do on their own to do that in their own way?
One of the things that I think is the most helpful is for 2 things. Coaches who have been on us to those 4. So on our website, we have a whole list of past tours. You can see, okay, where am I going? I'm going to Costa Rica, or I'm going to Slovenia. Well, let me find out, who do I know that's, been to. So you're not just getting the information from us, but you're getting it from an actual coach who's been that. And then also our tour journals. We have a lot of teams which will do tour journals either on their website or on our website. And those are really, really helpful because the players themselves are actually writing the journals. And, I can tend to get desensitized by it because I'm so comfortable in foreign cultures. But for the players to actually read past tour journals written from the players or coaches, from previous trips, that's really, really helpful because it just gives them a much better idea of what to expect. So I think those are the 2 biggest things. I mean, I always encourage, learning a little bit of the language, even if it's just some basics. I think that people appreciate it. You trying to speak the local language, that's fantastic. And just obviously as much about the country as you can before you go. We certificate along the way. We provide tour packets, which about every city and country that we're going to, which provide files like currency and things like that. But the more research you can do, education you can get before you actually go to that country, I think the better your experience is going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we actually had the advantage of the head coach's mother had lived in Argentina for, I think, 3 years, something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So she ended up coming with us. That wasn't originally part of the plan, but she ended up coming with us because we had somebody else that had to drop out. So she was, kind of translator. So we had a couple of native Spanish speakers involved in the trip, which definitely facilitates things quite a bit.
Yeah, that helps a lot. Speak Spanish, so I'm translating. Okay, good. But I love it when a player or a couple players on the team actually speaks, because and they can talk themselves to the players without actually having it to be translated. But also, I mean, now a lot of the girls, the players, they get out Google Translate, you know, the app and they'll, you know, they figure it out. They figure out ways to break through the language barrier, which is really cool. I mean, that didn't happen 10, 15 years ago.
No.
Or maybe with a book or something,
Right,
you know, or playing charades, you figure out a way.
Exactly.
But now with those types of translation apps, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. She did really good. Basically, like a week before we went on the trip or something, we just had a team meeting, and Coach's mom comes and talks about different things to look for and look out for, like dog leavings on the sidewalk.
Right.
In Buenos Aires, in certain places, there's a lot of that. So look down as you're walking. And actually, the worst place for it was literally from the bus stop to the Boca training facility. You just had to have your head down the whole time.
Yeah. It's good to have your head down when you walk on some of those. I mean, you know,
and her other advice was don't touch the dogs.
That was what I was just going to say. That's what I always tell her. Do not pet the stray dogs. And I always, you know, people always don't like hearing that, but it's just, you know, the reality of the situation, safety.
Yeah. Do you ever have any issues in terms of like medical stuff, water, you know, hey, stick to drinking bottled water versus, you know, the local water? I know in certain places that's a bigger deal than in other places.
I mean, in some places like in Nicaragua, we always buy bottled water for the team the whole trip. In Costa Rica, that's not, in Europe, it's not an issue. You can just fill up in your sink.
Right.
So, you know, we adjust to wherever we are. Obviously, if we're in a place where you can't drink water out of the faucet, then we will go and buy, you know, big jugs of water. We always tell teams to bring bring a water bottle that they can just refill. I think, you know, most teams are used to carrying that around with them anyways, and then we buy big jugs of water so they can refill. But, you know, in all over Europe and, like I said, Costa Rica, it's a non-issue. The water's good to drink out of a tap, but you know, that's just part of the deal, depending on where you're going.
Right. What about immunizations?
Again, it's country specific, so it depends where you go. You know, Europe or Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, it's not an issue. But if you're going to South America, Brazil, you know, then you're going to have to get some immunizations. And we always, you know, send we'll send coaches the list of immunizations that they're going to need to get before they go. Yeah. So definitely, you know, before you travel internationally, it's something to consider. Right. Wherever you're going.
Yeah, we definitely recommended all our players check in with their doctors.
Yeah.
What have you have? What's your immunization record already? What might you need? We also, I don't know if you guys cover this or not, or if this is something that teams do. We also actually took out some group insurance for the trip, just in case. Because there were volleyball players training for volleyball, playing volleyball. Things happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I just saw one of you and been to the Pula Global Challenge. I'm glad to see that. Love it.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Yeah, well organized. All right. Good promotion. Great. Good beach weather. Good beach in July. There's a selling point right there. That's all you need to tell the players.
There we go. Yeah.
Passports are always fun to deal with. In our case, a lot of kids didn't have them already, but some did. Right.
Yeah. So that's always, you know, one of the biggest, another time restraint too, is that you want to, and the reason to start early is that make sure everyone gets their passport in time. And then the other thing is to make sure your passport isn't expired and to make sure you have enough blank pages in the passport, because we've run into that a few times where someone will have, I have my passport, you know, I've had it for a year. Like, well, how many years have you had it? Because it might be expiring, you know, they expire. Yeah. So you need to that so that you're not trying to renew it at the last minute, but definitely something to keep in mind when you're traveling.
Right. And we had two interesting cases. One of them was the head coach was bringing her baby, her young daughter,
Okay.
who was
Yeah.
only like 3 months old at that
Mhm.
time. So they had to do something special for her. And they also had to bring a letter, I think, from her husband saying that she was allowed to
Oh,
take the kid outside the
geez.
country.
Yeah, of course.
So
Yeah.
there could
Yeah,
be
that's
that,
interesting. Yeah, I have a
Um,
lot of kids on tours, had some babies on, um, you know.
yeah. The
Yeah,
other thing
yeah.
was one of the players, apparently she had like a warrant on her for like unpaid ticket, like driving tickets, something like
Oh.
that was putting a hold on her ability to get a passport.
Oh,
So
wow.
be
That's
aware
a
of those
first. I
things.
haven't had that before. I didn't think, I feel like I've experienced just about everything at this point, but I haven't had
Like,
that.
okay, well, you might want to fix that
Yeah.
because you can't go if you don't have a passport.
Yeah, well, that's good. See, this is good. It's good to get your life in order and fix those types of
Right,
things.
exactly. No criminal
Yeah.
warrants, won't let you leave the country.
Right.
Or you might get to the other country and they decide they don't want you.
Don't want you back in.
Yeah, I think that would have been her problem. Was she would have been okay to go, but there might have been a problem when she got back.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
what she was kind of being told. Like,
Yeah.
well, as long as you can go play, that's all we care about. What happens? You get back into the airport, then you're gonna have to deal with that.
Yeah.
Uh, anything that we might have missed out and not touched on?
I feel like we covered just about everything. I think the most important thing is to, know that we're nice. So although we have sort of phase go on, but we work with you to design whatever type of, if you want more higher level volleyball, you want more volleyball, whatever it is, that we can do that for you. And I also really, is to, if this is something that you want to get involved in, don't let the fundraising stop you from just starting the process of exploring and trying to figure out a way. And whether it's with us or some other company, I do really believe that foreign travel is fantastic for our and our club players. It just makes us better volleyball players, better citizens of the world.
Yeah,
and I can give
agree.
you, I want to give you our website, put it, somewhere so you can go and there's tons of resources on our website for all that stuff. We have a fundraising guide to help with teams I can send to people. We have a guide for international volleyball that talks about all different pro leagues and around the world and eligibility and all that stuff. But on our website, you'll find a lot of information about international volleyball. So, and if there's stuff that we don't cover, just, you can, shoot me an email or shoot John an email to get to me, and we'll get it answered for you. We just want to continue to grow the game, and we're all volleyball players. I will say one of the things that really sets Bring It Promotions apart from a lot of other sports travel companies is that we're all volleyball players. I don't know if a lot of people realize that, but every single one of us, Tim Kelly, Corey Solomon, myself, guides, played volleyball, coached volleyball, and we work with pro players in all different countries. So when you come to, if you take a tour in Italy, your local guide is probably going to be one of us in addition to a local Italian volleyball player, which is so cool. So we're really dedicated to specifically volleyball. We don't, although we have run sports tours, we're really volleyball specific.
Yeah. All right. Okay, we did actually, somebody threw a question in here. Yeah.
How many teams do we handle?
How many teams do you handle each year?
Yeah, we do anywhere from like 30 to 70, I think. If we look on our website of the past tours page, you can see the list of teams. But I personally do about 15 tours a year. And our company as a whole does closer to 50 or 60. Yeah. Let's see.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that covers everything.
Thank you so much, John.
Thanks
really
everybody for
appreciate you
attending
taking your
and for the
time.
comments.
Yeah, thanks everybody who joined us. And yeah, good luck to everyone.
All right. Thanks, Brooke.
All
Have a
right,
good
thank
rest of your
you.
day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.